the bait of the day, an original Storm Wiggle Wart pre-Rapala with the offset molding right there. Beautiful bait. One of my favorite colors is Fire Tiger, and I just love that little thing. We're going to be talking about some of this kind of stuff today. Ready to run and gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, Todd here with you. Welcome back to Bassin 101. Man, that thing's a beauty. She's a baby doll. You know, this just kind of the base of the topic today is certain baits you haven't seen me throw on this channel. You know, I did a video a while, not very long ago, so I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it. It was called Cold Water Jerk Baits. And I happened to mention in that video that you haven't seen me throw videos. You haven't seen me throw jerk baits on this channel because, you know, a lot of the stuff I do on the water is a learning curve as far as simplify your fishing. I'm trying to figure out things, what I want to carry, what I want to throw, and I haven't thrown jerk baits because I know they're going in my arsenal, and I pretty much know what kind of jerk baits I want to throw, just due to past experience. So I haven't been throwing them on this channel. And I mentioned on there that I would go into more detail as far as why I haven't been doing that. I mean, there's a lot of baits I haven't been throwing here on this channel because I know they're going in my arsenal at the end of everything. So that's a given. And a perfect example, the original Wiggle Wart. You know, I found a guy online that sells the blanks from the original Wiggle Warts, and they have the same action. And so I'm just going to paint my own, and especially in these old coach dog type patterns, the old crawfish type patterns. Definitely going to paint a bunch of them, and then some new patterns that I've come up with, and some of them as well, because personally, that's my favorite crankbait. Sure, there's a lot of others out there that I have a lot of confidence in. I've caught a lot of bass off of. Whether they make it to the final arsenal, I doubt it. But because I'm a Wiggle Wart nut. I love the Wiggle Wart. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are in the same boat. Not the new ones. No. These are the originals. So, okay. You know, see, it even says right there, Wiggle Wart. That's the originals. That's what I prefer. But there's so many other crankbaits out there. So many different jerk baits out there. Stuff I've thrown that I have a lot of confidence in. As far as, like, all right, say crankbaits in particular, if you want the ultimate weedless crankbait that it's almost impossible to get it hung, is the Bomber fat-free shad or the original Excalibur fat-free shad. Doesn't matter. There's something about that lip design, and I can count on one hand how many times in all these years I've had to go and get a plug knocker and get that bait out. One hand. It's a great lure. I've caught a lot of bass off of it. But to me, there's just something about that Wiggle Wart. And everybody says this is a great pre-spawn bait and everything. Guys, I use this all year long. You know, as far as topwater, there's a lot of different topwaters I haven't thrown simply because I know they're going to make my arsenal. One thing that you haven't seen me throw on this channel yet has been a Zero Spook, the original 3/4 ounce Zero Spook. And I haven't done a video on that yet because I know it's going to make my final arsenal as far as a walking bait. You know, other baits that you haven't seen me throw a lot is basically like, you know, Mr. Twister Phenoms or Berkeley Power Worms. Is a 7-inch power worm. It's really a 5.5-inch worm, but they call it a 7-inch power worm. You know, other stuff like that because I know that's going to make my final choice, or I know that it's definitely a candidate for my final choice. Gosh, there's been a lot of stuff on there. You know, different types of spinner baits that you guys haven't seen me throw that I've been experimenting around with as far as comparing them to other baits that I have. I do a lot of comparisons on the water that I don't film. And it's basically because I'm studying what's going on. I don't want to have to fool with the camera and try to get play pause, all those other kind of stuff. But I've already done a video as far as how that's going to change down the road. Um, Gosh, there's just so many baits that you guys just haven't seen me throw, just because I'm I'm trying to go back to some of the old original baits that started everything and seeing the comparisons of how this operates compared to the other one or to the new stuff, or do I catch just as many fish on this original version versus the newer versions of everything? And what I mean by that is, um, say, a perfect example, you can take a wiggle wart right here. Okay, this thing runs 6 to 8 feet, depending on your pound test, your cranking speed, everything else. Um, it's possible to even get it deeper if you really want to go with a lighter line, stick your rod tip in the water and everything else. But you got the Spro rock crawler, which to me is just a copy of this. I've never used a Spro rock crawler, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to use a rock crawler. So it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I know some of you guys are probably thinking, man, you're missing out. We've never fished that. Well, that's a possibility, but I'm only limiting myself to so much space in my tackle selection. So you got to be very particular about how you do things. And like a Bagley Deep B3, a DB3, it runs anywhere from 12 to maybe 15 feet, maybe if you're lucky. But it's basically a 10 to 12 foot type bait. There's other lures that have come since then that also run 10, 12 foot range like that. The Deep Little End, which is again one of my all-time also favorite crankbaits, is a Deep Little End. You can run that thing in a foot of water. You can run it in 12 foot of water. It's a great bait. And again, I haven't been throwing those on this channel because I know what they do, but I've got a crap load of blanks from LureNet. They're the actual Deep Little Ends, and I've got a ton of those things. So I'm going to eventually end up painting some of those in patterns that I like. But to me, experimenting, especially over this past year, experimenting with baits that you don't normally throw was the whole entire key. So, I haven't been throwing wiggle warts. I haven't been throwing anything I have the most amount of confidence in. I have not been throwing. And the purpose of that is to really dial in what I want to do with my tackle. It doesn't mean we'll get rid of anything. I can always just put it in the back burner, stock it on a shelf, stock it in a tackle box, whatever, and just hold on to it because down the road I'll eventually throw it. But to really learn, I guess the best way to put it is I haven't been throwing the baits I have the most amount of confidence in because I'm trying to learn myself. I'm trying to learn what I like. And that sounds weird. And I'm sure a lot of you guys understand what I'm talking about, especially if you've been doing your Simplify Your Fishing thing and really trying to nitpick what you're doing. Basically, you lose track of what you're doing if you don't pay attention. And you have to spend a year or so throwing stuff that you don't normally throw, and you learn so much more about yourself than you will ever learn. And so I've learned the kind of crankbaits I like to throw, the depth of water I prefer to fish. Me, I'm kind of a shallow water guy. I like the 0 to 10 foot range, 0 to 12 foot range, but I can fish deep if I have to. Shallow water is very fragile. Deeper water is more stable as far as weather pattern changes. But I like to do the shallow water a whole lot better. I tend to kind of mostly do a lot of shallow water baits in my Simplify Your Fishing. But I do keep things open for deeper water stuff that I have confidence in. So that's important. So there's certain baits I haven't thrown. You guys haven't seen me throw a Carolina rig on here. I'm still kind of throwing the Carolina rig around a little bit. I've caught a lot of fish off Carolina rig, but not as much as I have Texas rigging or jig fishing or things like that. So Carolina rig is still a question mark as far as if that's something I want to do in my final selection. I am a river guy. There's not a lot of current where I fish at, but I am kind of a river guy. I'm also a small reservoir person. So, Carolina rig is definitely something to have, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to stick with that or not. So, again, that's a bait or a certain presentation I haven't been fishing on this channel. And, I tend to, I'm really trying to keep things in a simple format as far as the baits that I choose. And it's really hard to do. It really is. I mean, if you're doing the simplify your fishing, it's really hard to do. Either pack your boat full like a tackle store, like I used to do. I had a bass tracker that was just basically a tackle store, or keep it as simple as you can, so you can keep up with everything a lot better. And everybody's on a different thing. There's a lot of guys on this channel who do tournament fishing, club tournaments, local tournaments, things like that. Simplify your fishing might not be up your alley, but at the same time, simplify your fishing, it could also give you an advantage over everybody else. But most of you guys on here fish for fun, fish in your off time, and you don't want to have a lot of stuff that you want to deal with. And that's another reason why I haven't been throwing particular baits on here, because I'm trying to avoid that, because I know they're going to end up in my arsenal eventually anyway. That's why I haven't seen me throw my favorite bait of wiggle work. But, I just wanted to throw that out there to you guys to get you to understand why there's certain baits I haven't been throwing on here. In case you're wondering, I never see him throw a crankbait, or I never see him throw a jerkbait. Why is that? Or he doesn't do this, or he doesn't do that. There's a reason. And that reason is because I know this stuff's going in my my final product. So why throw it when I'm trying to experiment with everything else? I'm trying to eliminate what I don't want to throw versus things I know I'm going to throw. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. That's all I got today for you guys. That's enough rambling for me. So until next time, may the Father bless you and keep you to show his name. And as always, fish on.